Hey guys, Jay here. Welcome to Models and Memories Weekly, episode 19. Models and Memories is a show about nothing and it is filmed in front of a live studio audience. And stay tuned all the way till the end to see a montage of painted minis courtesy of the EOB Complete community. This is a show where I talk about my painting, modeling, and wargaming experiences from the week, and I end every episode with a story. Now you might think to yourself, Jay, you put out 3 YouTube videos a week and you live stream every single night. How? Could you have more to say? Well, I do, and here goes. This week, Games Workshop showed off something that really completely blew me away. It got me super excited to hobby, it got me super excited to collect. It was the coolest thing I think they've shown off in a very long time, a custom Blood Angels army. On the Warhammer community, this Blood Angels army looks so good, it'll even calm the Black Rage. It's a very heavily converted army by Colin Ward, and it's so good. And this is the sort of stuff that gets me super pumped. Like, I see all the time, like Titans from Forge World, the Thunderhawk gunship, the Warlord Titan, even the smaller Titans. They're exciting and they're interesting, but they don't jimmy my jams. They don't flim my flams, because I get bored easily, and I feel like it's an incredible amount of money to give to one model that I don't even know is gonna be fun to use, and I can't bring it to most games because you can't bring a Titan to a bunch of games. And so I don't feel like I want to paint those. Whenever I look at them, I'm like, that looks like a giant pain in the butt. And is it cool enough to sit on the shelf and look at it all the time? Like, why is that Thunderhawk gunship $700? But this is cool. And what I would call this is a spare no expense army. Because this army would probably cost a similar amount because a lot of the kits are converted. And it looks like he just bought whatever kit he needed to turn these models into this. And it's buttery. It is glorious. You can see all of his HQs are converted. A lot of them are converted from the Forge World character models. It looks like he did some really cool things, like he took regular old Space Marine heads and put them on the Intercessor bodies, which, because the Intercessors look so much better than regular Space Marines, and you know they do. No, don't lie to yourself. I have like 100 regular squatty Space Marines and I love them, but my Primaris look a lot better. He did tons and tons of converting little simple things, like his Hellblasters all have Reaver skull helmets, which look incredible, and then he used those Reaver bodies when it came time to build his Death Company. The Death Company kit is one of the coolest old Space Marine kits around because they're just bedazzled out the wazoo. And so on his, he kind of took a lot of those bedazzled elements and then he put them onto the Reaver bodies, and it looks sick. Like, every single model in this army is perfected, and that is just wild. They all of them are brought together by the beautiful basing, as that is what basing can do for any army. But this is what I would get me really excited. Like, I'm either gonna spend $700 on this one model that's going to be a real pain in the butt to build, a real pain in the butt to paint, and then I can bring it in a couple of games, or you just have the best army on earth. Like, this is the best Blood Angels army around. It is so cool. For the Sanguinary Guard, this is what really blew me away. So he must have bought the Sanguinary Guard kit, which are like these angelic Space Marines, but the bodies of those Space Marines are kind of derpy nowadays. So he took Custodes bodies and then he put the Sanguinary heads and wings and weapons onto those, and they look glorious. It is wonderful. This sort of army where like everything was really thought out. Because the thing is, most people's armies, you buy a box, you build it according to the instructions, you paint it according to whatever color you pick, and then it's done. But this army has some serious thought behind it. The painter of this army, he even talks about how he almost made another little army inside of this army, where he painted all of his infiltrators in tan camo to match the bases, and they ended up with their own HQ and their own vehicle. And that is really cool because of the bases. It is part of the same army, but you almost do have a whole nother faction inside of it, which that is a really, really cool concept. You see a lot of the times, like when an army like the Blood Angels have to take scouts or infiltrators, there'll be like a bright red armored guy with a cape, and the cape has camouflage on it, and you're like, 10 out of 10 sneak right there. They must roll natural D20s every single time for their sneak. But these are wonderful, absolutely gorgeous. And this totally brought me right back to when I was in high school looking at armies. And it reminded me of some of my favorites over the years, like this painter, Hope Rivers Valley. I remember reading a lot of her posts on her blog in high school, and she is an amazing painter. And she painted this army of Eldar that had like starscapes on them, and that got me so excited. I actually painted an entire Eldar army for my cousin, and that I did a lot of that starscaping on all of the characters. And crazily enough, I was showing this off to some of my classmates, and I actually got a commission to paint that starscape onto a saxophone. And so that was a super, super fun experience. I love her work. It looks like she doesn't post as much. I guess not, things don't last forever, but holy cow. She is one of the people that really kind of got me interested in taking models further than just, painting them or finishing them or getting them to look like the box. And another amazing army I saw, this army I saw on Daka 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 by the user GetSplitta, is a completely customized, like 3rd edition army of Mantis Warriors. They look so cool. And because this is a forum post that has 612 pages, you see every part of the process. You see his test models, you see him coming up with his paint scheme, you see tons of people in the comments arguing about like what is working and what's not. He customized and kit bashed like every unit in the game using a lot of 3rd edition parts, and it really, really made for a snazzy and unique army. And this is the sort of stuff that gets me so jazzed. This, Hope River Valley, the Blood Angel, spare no expense armies. They are so cool to me. I would love to do one one day. I don't know what it would be because I have plenty of Space Marines. I don't need more Space Marines. But I don't know if there's another 40k army calling out to me. Maybe Sisters of Battle. It might be Sisters of Battle, but they look so cool already. I feel like I don't need to convert them at all. But spare no expense armies. I'm gonna put a link to all 3 of these: Hope River, GetSplitta, and the Blood Angels. Just give them a look. Just stop whatever you're doing. It's wonderful. So cool. Another thing that happened this week is I think I have learned the secrets to how Games Workshop takes their beautiful 360 spinnies for the website. Because I was clicking through the Games Workshop website, as I am one to do, and I was looking at the Thunder Tusk Beast Riders, and I noticed on one of the spinnies, everything is wrong. You can actually see the background. It's a very wrinkly piece of white paper, and this tells me everything about how they take their photos, because it's not just a 360 spinny, it's actually a 360 spinny and you can rotate it a little. And if you rotate it, the error does not appear, but most of the rotation frames are gone. So I would bet money that the way Games Workshop takes these spinnies is they have a rig, a curved arm with 4 cameras set to the 4 different angles you can view their models at, and a turntable with some slots so that they can always take them at the exact right angles. And then, they set their model down, take 4 pictures, turn it, take 4 pictures, turn it, take 4 pictures, turn it, take 4 pictures. But what happened this time was, for some reason, something was really wrong, and so they couldn't properly get rid of the background. And so for one frame, you can see the background, but you can kind of see that they have like digitally airbrushed out the bottom because that's probably the mechanism. And for the rest of it, it's just not properly edited. And so you can see a little bit of the background, but it's mostly just gray. And you can see a little bit of darkness at the top. But clearly they could salvage a few frames of the front camera, but then they just deleted the top camera frames. And I bet that they shoot a ton of these in like a day. And so they must have noticed they did a really bad job. Way down the line, they've already shipped this model off to like the Codex printers and stuff. They don't have it to reshoot the stuff. So they fixed it up the best they could, doing a terrible job. And then they just published it. It's amazing. And it's a super cool little peek behind the curtain. I absolutely love it. Good old, why leave it up? Just take it down. It's so incriminating. I can't believe that I haven't seen like Curioth or someone talk about this. This is hilarious. And the digital airbrushing to take out the apparatus, the turntable, is incredible. The wrinkliness of the paper. This is probably the paper that they've been using since 1988. It's great. I love this little thing. They should talk about this in a Warhammer article, honestly. They should talk about how they do the photos and this mistake. And I wonder if I keep searching through the catalog, because I bet they do take a bunch of these in a day. Once they have all the models painted, and then before they ship them off to whoever else needs to have the models, I wonder if there's more. It might be that this was the best of a bad lot, and they could fix this one a little, but they couldn't fix the others. They just didn't publish it. There's a couple of weird instances on the website where models don't have a spinny. Like I think the brand new Mephiston Lord of Death doesn't have a spinny, and I suspect that it's because the model is damaged somehow, and so they can't show off the spinny because they would be showing off the damaged model. But this is a really cool find. Like I had to rub my eyes and make sure I wasn't imagining this wonderful little blunder. And clearly most of the top camera of like the topmost camera footages just could not be used for anything. It is great. But it is great though that Games Workshop does have 360 spinnies. Like as a consumer who wants to buy their models, having a perfect 360 spinny of a perfectly painted model showing off everything is a huge incentive to buy. It probably also, that huge incentive to buy is offset by the huge price. So I'm like, that's cool, I want it. Ooh, that's a bad price. I don't know if I want it. But then I look at the spinny, I'm like, okay, yeah, I want it still. But wonderful, wonderful little thing I stumbled upon. Absolutely great. And the last thing Games Workshop did this week is they showed off a new model for Age of Sigmar, and I am completely stoked because I am now gonna be playing Age of Sigmar. I'm playing the Stormcast Eternals, and reading the rules, it actually looks a lot neater than 40K because when you're army building, there's only 4 categories, which is great. And all the categories are self-evident, unlike 40K's categories. There's your leader, there's your sub-leaders, there's your troops, and your beasts. Your leaders are, your leader is your big old leader, your sub-leader is whoever else is leading, your troops are anything else. There's also artillery, and the artillery are like guns, big emplacement guns, and then beasts. And beasts are just monsters. There's no like, is that an elite or a heavy support? Well, that guy moves pretty fast, but he's actually an elite choice, not a fast attack choice. And it never really made sense to me, the army building in 40K, especially now there's so many models, because like, it's almost like there's a hidden price to things. Like, would a game be really imbalanced if someone brought too much heavy support and another person brought too much fast attack? Like, would that unbalance the game? Because I've also heard people say like, well, if you take a Vanguard detachment, you can bring a lot more fast attack choices. But then what good were the rules? Why have a giant book of rules to let you do whatever you want when you could just let people do whatever they want? It's interesting to me, but Age of Sigmar looks like it's really nice and streamlined, and I want to experience all there is to experience with Age of Sigmar, and so I need a monster for my army. But for the Stormcast Eternals, I don't have a great monster choice because my options are the Star Drake, which is a really weirdly chunky dragon with a tiny head that looks not very good. I don't want it. And then there's a really, really fugly Pegasus. It's like a perfect Pegasus body with really, really nice wings and then a weird face. I get it's not a Pegasus, it's whatever it is, but it looks bad. It looks really bad. I don't want either of those models, but Games Workshop has came out with a proper dragon. Nothing fancy, no frills, no gimmicks, it's just a dragon. And that I can paint, I can get behind that. It's a pretty sweet model. It's gorgeously done. It's probably the best wings Games Workshop has ever done. The best like skin and texture. It's really, really a good model. It's hard to tell how big it is. It looks like it's gonna be huge because they kind of show off some concept art of it fighting Kragnos. But that model I can get behind. The other 2 beasts, I might need to find something to proxy as them because they look bad. The Star Drake, it has this giant fat lizard body and then just honk, just a weird goose head that's like screaming. And they did the thing that makes things look dumb, where they took the eyes, if this is a face, they took the eyes here where like a predator's eyes are, and they moved them like over the mouth where like frogs' eyes are. That makes them look so stupid. It's good old Games Workshop. But they made a cool dragon, so I can't wait to get that model. But that was the things I got to do today for Wargaming. Really fun week, a good old-fashioned week, Ma's old-fashioned week. It was a lot of fun. But now it's time for the story part of this show, because this is Models and Memories, and it's talking about the memories associated with models. I already got to talk about a few, my recollections of high school. Whenever we got to work in the computer lab, I would be looking at Warhammer models. But this week for this show, I want to tell a story. And that story will be about this, my favorite Star Trek character. This is my action figure of General Grievous that I bought when Episode 3 came out. I have a lovely story behind it, but also good old Star Wars Episode 3. I think Star Wars Episode 3 was the movie that conditioned me to never dislike a Star Wars movie again. Like, I could never hate a Star Wars movie. I grew up with Star Wars from like the ages of 0 to like 12. We had a VCR, but we only had 3 movies. The first 3 Star Wars movies. The real first 3 Star Wars movies, 4, 5, and 6. And so I watched those on a loop daily. And so when the prequels came out, I was all on board. But 3, me and Star Wars Episode 3, we have a rough history because it's my least favorite Star Wars movie. I do not like it. I get why it's a better movie than the other 2 prequels, but I don't like it because I feel like it drops all the balls. Like, Yoda barely loses his fight with the Emperor. Like, it feels like if he and Obi-Wan just tried again, they would have won. Everything in that movie is wrong. It doesn't make any sense. Anakin's turn to the dark side is barely believable. I mean, it's not even barely believable. It's not believable. The opening scene with the space battle and recapturing the Emperor is pretty cool. Although, everything about that movie is a little bit wrong. And General Grievous, as cool as he is, and as awesome as my little kid self thought he was, he doesn't have a point. Number one, he's General Grievous, because I guess the name Captain Bad Guy or Darth Evil was taken, but why did they keep jumping from bad guys? They had Darth Maul, who was super cool, and then they had Count Poo Poo, who was not very cool, and then they had this guy who's like, character design is incredible, but he's just nothing in the movie. He's just a robot that coughs a little and then gets shot. Good old Episode 3. But what I learned from growing up with Star Wars Episode 3 is, like, Star Wars can be bad or unfulfilling or wrong, but still be tons of fun. And a movie that I've watched over and over and over and over and over. And so I remember when I was a little kid and I saw Episode 3, I had to have the General Grievous action figure. And so one day, my dad took me to the store, and back when the prequels came out, I mean, the toy section was just Star Wars. It was just a wall of Star Wars, and I was like 2 feet tall. It was amazing. And so I wanted to find this guy, and so I'm digging through all of the blisters, and I'm looking at them, and I'm getting rid of Dexter Jetsters and Pregnant Padme, which was an action figure for some reason, and I'm just making a huge mess, and I can't find him anywhere. And I think I looked at every single toy in the toy aisle. I could not find this model. And so finally, I was just like, okay, well, I guess let's just go home. And then my dad's like, hey, look at this. Boom. And he takes it off and he hands me General Grievous. And it was amazing. And I am like 99% convinced that he pegged that sucker the second we stepped in the aisle, because he knew this is what I wanted. And maybe he even like hid it or knew I couldn't reach it and couldn't see it and let me tear the whole aisle apart. It was wonderful. But when he picked up that little blister and handed it to me, it was incredible. This toy has been played with a lot. It has an amazing action function. Just, let's see if the camera can capture this. Oh yeah, check that out. It's pretty great, right? But this model is a lot of fun. He's a really cool looking character. I know I have the art of Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith, And a lot of the concept art behind this guy is also incredible. It's a little bit like horror, like a little H.R. Giger, a little bit Hellraiser-y. The finished product is a little bit more, kid-friendly, but it's really cool. And I love this model. I love the recollection of acquiring this model. It just makes me so happy to think of my dad waiting, just watching me and waiting to get to spring that on me. It is incredible. But good old General Grievous. Not really my favorite character, probably my favorite toy, but good old Revenge of the Sith. Why did they name them Luke and Leia? Because that's what they are in the other movies, so we have to just say it. I don't want to hear Darth Vader ask about Padme. But you can't win them all, and you know what? It's still a Star Wars movie. But that is the story for this episode, and it brings this episode of Models and Memories to a close. If you like this series for some reason and you want to see it continue, the best way to support us is by becoming a member of our Patreon. Over there, you'll get access to some behind the scenes, voting on what models I paint live on YouTube, a live homie hangout every week, and more. But with that out of the way, it is now time for the real star of the show, this week's EOB Complete submissions. We put out a challenge to our community to send us before and after photos of their recently finished models to be immortalized in our videos. If you want to join in the fun, you can submit a before and after photo of your painted mini to our Discord server, which you can find in the description below, or you can post it to Instagram with the hashtag EOBComplete. Without further ado, let's look at and get inspired by what the folks have finished this week. A Lumineth Army by Brucifer, a Space Marine Rhino by Woe77, a Skitari Marshal by Thunder Knight, a Hot Wheels repaint with lights by Orange, a Chaos Space Marine by Lonely Dino, a Kitbash Lizardman Ogre by Witness My Minis, a Captain Shrike by Havran228, a Space Marine repaint by Mega Slade, a Blood Bowl Ogre by Biggest Dickus, an Auric Mega Boss by Dead93, a Blackjack for Infinity by Wolfpack, an Old School Chaplain by Jasuchin, a Bladeguard Ancient by Not Mike, a Vindikar Assassin by Muckle, a Black Templar Chapter Ancient by Enclave, a Space Marine Gunner by Eldar, a Savitar First Captain of the Night Lords by Dream Shards, a Retro Salamander Space Marine by Chicky Nugs, a Light of Eltharion by Eva Geek 52, a Battletech Mech by Cyborg Larry, a Chaos Mauler Fiend by Banana R Coolest, a Custom Robot Fella by Jacoball, some Orc Meganobs by Nick, a Kazarkin Hellgun Squad by Max Latina, a Vostroyan Firstborn by Jonah, a Bloodthirster by Loot Sloot, and a Chaos Mauler Fiend by Tweepler. Congratulations to everyone for a job well done. It's no small feat to get paint on minis, and you all should feel really proud. Nothing gets the hobby juices flowing like finishing a project, and we all thank you for sharing your work, motivating us and the hobby community to paint our plastic. Thanks for sharing.